Arirang Radio.
Good Morning Seoul, weekdays 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. The latest updates and current events and trends. What's in a question? Maybe just about everything important. A smart and sharp question should strike up a more engaging conversation. So let's talk about the best cities to study abroad in. One can dream, right? For a conversation, we're joined by Diane. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Are you sure?
A little tired.
You forgot your coffee today.
I did. And it's so funny because humans are such habitual creatures
Right.
that I forget one thing and it just kind of throws me off balance a little
Yeah.
bit. I'm a little off.
It feels like you skipped a step today.
Yeah, it really does. And it's god awful.
Hang in there.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, guys.
All right, let's jump into our discussion topic.
Right.
Our question of the day is what?
So, question, where would you want to study abroad? I only study in the States. So, if I could go back to my uni days, I would apply for exchange student every semester for sure, like going to Europe or
Yeah.
like Australia or Canada or any other places.
Any
Then
other places
States.
that you weren't exposed to?
Right, yeah, new world. Which country would you want to go back as a freshman in college if you can choose, Lena?
Honestly, if I'm a freshman, I would stay exactly where I was in the state of California.
Really? Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Cali. So Cali
Yeah.
treated you well during the
I
freshman
think
years.
so. And because I think, building on top of what I guess Shush was talking about, I mean, college is also about networking experiences.
Right.
And at the time, like, I knew that I wanted to work in California. So that made sense to me. So
Right.
if I took a time machine back, I think I'll make the same exact decisions.
Right.
But with the benefit of hindsight, now I'm doing
Yeah.
something differently. Like, I would do different city like every month if I could.
Every month.
Yeah, and because no longer is it about networking for me then, it's about just being exposed to all these different cultures,
Right.
I think, which makes you a much more well-rounded person.
Right. So, which city would you start from first?
Oh, I would go to Florence. That's like
Florence.
at the top of my list. Just Florence for a month would change everything for me.
What's the benefit of going to Florence?
Just art
Just
everywhere.
art. Okay.
I literally walk down a dark alley and there's a marble on the floor that's touched by someone famous. Like
Oh my
it's,
God.
it's the air that Florence is. Like it's the aura, it's the museums, it's the culture. The food helps too.
In Florence?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just in Italy.
Right. So, but choosing where to study is a bit trickier,
Yes.
right? Than where to work or where to visit, because
Yeah.
you have to consider so many things. Starting with like the programs the university has to offer.
You just popped my bubble. Why would you even ask me this if you're going to pop my bubble in this way? But
Well,
this is true.
yes.
I guess because most of us go to college thinking we would want a certain job and,
Right.
and a certain career.
Of course.
Now, in order to help students decide on which country or school to choose from, not necessarily, I don't know, just
To
strolling
visit.
about and visit.
Right.
An education company known as Education's Media Group has conducted research on the top 10 places in the world to study abroad.
Right. So at the beginning of this year, Education Media Group's underbranch website that provides information about academic programs around the world to help students to get proper education abroad, called education.com, has announced its latest research on the best country to study abroad.
All right, so I do have to wonder because that's so many elements to consider. As you said, depending on what you study, where you might want to be differs
Right.
so great. Someone who wants to study medicine as opposed to someone who wants to study media, it's just a different ballgame,
Right. Or
isn't
what
it?
you seek as a freshman.
Yep.
Party or
Okay,
study?
honestly, aren't most freshmen seeking, I don't know, loosening up the hair and partying it up? I feel like any
Yeah.
city could be appropriate for that.
Right.
Okay, so I do have to ask you then, what kind of standard or measuring stick did they use to come up with the rankings? Because it seems like so many variables go
Right.
into, well, ranking this rationally.
Right. So in August 2021, they conducted a survey of over 10,000 students from abroad the world and asked about their top reasons for studying abroad. This resulted in the list of factors students considered most important, which was then used as the framework for the rankings.
Okay, so these are the factors.
Right. So number one, to access higher quality teaching. teaching.
Okay.
2, to achieve career goals. 3, to develop personality. 4, to experience a new culture or lifestyle. 5, to make new friends or for professional networking. 6, to learn a new language. 7, to have an adventure.
I love 7.
Right, to have an adventure.
That can mean anything.
Right. Well, then they assign the factors to corresponding quantitative metric or weight, or according to how many students selected that factor as important in their decision-making process. So, for example, 17.25% of students surveyed said it was important to experience a new culture or lifestyle. Hence, the to experience a new cultural lifestyle factor makes up 17.25% of each country's overall score.
Okay.
So each factor's score is made up of sub-scores based on a selection of external data sources. Each of these sub-scores was averaged out and added together to create a final score for that factor. So
Okay, so they really did try to cover all grounds.
Yes. Yeah, so from there, the factors were weighed and added together to create a final score for each country. The top 10 places for each list are the countries with the highest final score out of 100.
So, of course, it's worth looking at the quantitative metric for each factor because access to higher quality teaching should probably take up the bigger part of the pie than have an adventure.
Right. If you are looking for a place to study abroad,
Yeah.
right? So access to higher quality teaching took up the most with 26.8%, followed by achieving career goals with 19.9%. To develop myself personality had 18.4% weight, and to experience a new culture of lifestyle took about 17.3%. So to have an adventure, it was
Single digits?
Yes, it was single digits. It was very low.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you can guess why. We're talking about studying
Right,
abroad.
studying abroad.
Okay, not playing abroad.
Right.
Although exchange student programs are definitely more about the latter, playing abroad.
Which is very true.
All right, so do tell us the result. I'm so curious. Which country got the highest score?
Well, rather than just going straight to the first place, should we count down from number 5?
Oh, you know suspense.
Yes. Building up.
Which country was in 5th place, 5th best country in the world to study?
Right, so it was Switzerland with the overall score being the 5th place, but they ranked number 1 actually on the to achieve career goals factor. For the reasons behind this 5th place, the survey gave the country's studying landscapes with scenes so beautiful that it's hard to believe that it's all real. For one of the reasons to choose a country.
Okay.
Besides Swiss cheese, chocolate, watches, and knives.
Seriously?
Switzerland may be the most famous for the Swiss Alps,
Sure.
which offer incredible sights and opportunities for mountain sports. The highly international population and easy access to travel in heart of Europe makes Switzerland the perfect place to satisfy your inner adventure. If you're a language enthusiast, you'll be thrilled to hear Swiss French, Swiss Italian, Swiss German, and maybe even Romanish on your strolls through the city.
If you want to be cultured, apparently
Right.
Switzerland is where to go.
Yeah, with so many different languages spoken.
And a highly international population.
Right.
Check, this sounds so interesting
Yeah.
to me. And down to, up to the 4th place.
4th place, it was the United States of America.
So predictable.
So there's no doubt that the U.S. is one of the most multicultural countries in the world, spanning from the Atlantic to the Pacific. Each state hosts a variety of landscapes, subcultures, and histories that you'll never get bored of exploring while you're there.
Seriously, that's how you're going to put it, bored of exploring? There's just too much.
No,
too much.
well, a lot of options
Yeah.
is a good thing.
This is
right?
true. And
Better
they
than
do,
no options.
and they do have so many high level educations.
Right.
Just, so many colleges to choose
course.
from and so many specialized colleges
Yeah.
that if school was your focus, it would make sense.
Right. As a student in one of the many high quality schools in the States, you'll notice that even the universities are a melting pot of cultures with domestic and international students alike coming from completely different backgrounds.
It's funny because I don't know if we even still use melting pot, don't you think? Someone told me it's more like a salad bowl.
Oh, salad bowl. Yeah. Okay. I'll go with salad bowl. Stands corrected.
Because after all these years of us
Right.
calling a melting pot, I'm not quite sure if we melt and mend.
Right,
We
yeah.
just coexist.
We just coexist. Right.
But
So,
anyway.
salad bowl.
Whether it's a salad bowl
Right.
or a melting pot, because of all of the aforementioned reasons,
Right.
4th best country in the world to study. That brings us to 3rd.
Deutschland. So Germany is ranked third in the world and the first in Europe for many reasons, stretching from the beaches along its Baltic coast to the mountains of Bavaria. Germany seems to be home to almost every European landscape imaginable, perfect for all seasons. Even if you're not a history buff, you'll notice strands of the past woven throughout the country, from the Berlin Wall and Holocaust memorials in the city to the magical elites and, I don't know if I can say this right, but Neuschwanstein castles in the countryside.
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
Because I can't help you.
Right. If you decide to study at some of the world's oldest and most well-known university in Germany, you'll surely get the experience of a lifetime.
Well, close to the first place, but before second.
Right. It's the first place in North America region. And it's the country is Canada.
The U.S. would be so bitter.
Right. As a bilingual country, French and English are widely spoken, making Canada one of the best places to learn a new language in the world. Though, as an extremely multicultural country, you're guaranteed to hear many more languages beyond that, including the languages of the indigenous people of Canada.
Sure.
And regardless of language, you'll find warm welcomes and friendly smiles there, not to mention all the beautiful natures that it has to offer.
That's not a cliche, guys.
Right.
Down to our final, the best country in the world to study.
Right. With an overall score of 83.31 out of 100, Australia was chosen as the first country to study abroad. So
I feel like Claudia would be very happy.
Right, she was very thrilled to see this result. Australia, or Australia as the Aussies call it, takes up the top spot from Canada this year as the top destination in the world to study abroad in 2022.
I wonder why.
Yeah, with 9 distinctive regions and 20 UNESCO World Heritage Sites like the Great Barrier Reef, the Tasmanian Wilderness, and a lot of national parks, there's so much to explore. City life greets you in Brisbane, Adelaide, and Melbourne, the latter being the heart of Australia's music scene. You'll find the passion for pubs and cafes all over the country and a diverse mix of cultures for sure, including the Australian Aboriginal heritage.
Great coffee.
And coffee.
That's all I got out of that.
Great coffee.
All right, some of our listeners answered that they would love to study in South Korea.
Right.
So where does South Korea place on this list?
So South Korea rose 1 place from 2021 to rank 22nd in 2022. So 23rd to 22nd.
Okay.
And among the Asian countries, it was placed third after Japan and China. The reason for choosing South Korea was as follows. The Korean wave is here to stay, with BTS and Squid Game being some of the top global phenomena of last year. It's no surprise that South Korea has risen on the list as a top destination. And South Korea holds some of the highest quality education in the region and much more beyond, not to mention all the delicious food and all the heritage sites that it has to offer.
This is a fascinating list, just because, not just because Korea is doing better. My point being, when we take it into a bigger picture question, then we're left answering not just about the quality of education. We're asked answering during your off time. Then where can you go? What can you see?
Who
what
can you
hear?
meet?
Who can you meet? And what can you eat?
Right.
It's so funny, right? It's not all about the degree.
All important stuff.
Thanks, Diane. That was a fun conversation. I'll see you tomorrow.
I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, we have Tuesdays for Tomorrow coming up with you next.